guys. How's it going? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Just gonna go over some slides today on this lovely Friday. Um, Before we start, I want to talk about the Ed puzzle. So you saw, usually up until now, what we've been doing is we've been doing the slides. I've been explaining the slides, and you've been doing some work at the end of the slides. And we do that every meeting, and then eventually we have a quiz on it, right? Well, I'm just going to mix it up just a little bit. No big deal. It actually makes it better for you. I discovered Ed Puzzle. I know it's been around for a while, and I know teachers have been using it. And they're like Bradshaw and Randolph. I know a lot of people that do use it, but I was always, but we were forced to do a professional development thing on it, a training, and I did it, and I really liked it. I actually use it for my son, who's in fourth grade. So when he's confused about some science topics, I'll find a video and I'll make some questions, and he kind of likes it. So I like it. Bottom line. So I'm going to stick it in here. It's not a difficult thing, as you see. If you saw the first one, I usually put open-ended questions in there, so you actually have to write and think about something instead of just multiple choice where you can just click your way through. I am going to grade them, so it's a good way to generate a lot of grades for this last cycle of ours, and it's a good way for you to stay on top of the topics, all right? So the way it works is we did the old growth forest slides, and then you did some work after the old growth forest slides, which is normal. That was one day. And then the next day that we met, you did the Ed puzzle it had to do with old growth forests. Boom, there you go. So this time we're meeting and we're doing what's called forest management. And then the next time we meet, you're going to do an Ed puzzle that's based on forest management. And then slides with a little bit of work, and then Ed puzzle, and then slides with a little bit of work, and then Ed puzzle. That way we could generate a decent amount of grades, and it's fair for everybody. And if you miss something, you know the deal. All right. So that's what it is. I like Ed puzzle. I'm going to use it. It's pretty cool. To these slides, I posted some slides about 15 minutes ago. You should have looked at them if you are doing things in the scheduled, timely manner, like some of you are. Some of you are coming on later on, and I'm getting a lot of views by the end of the night or the next day, so I'm cool with that. All right. Next thing I'm going to do as soon as I'm done with this and I sign off is that Ed puzzle, that first Ed puzzle that you had was actually due last night at 11:59 p.m. So that's my next job for today. I'm going to go in, I'm going to grade that real quick. And if you haven't done it yet, then you need to send me a private message after you do finish it. It's okay. Just send me a private message so I have a heads up and I can get in there and grade it for you. All right. Other than that, let's go on with the slides. So your slides are open. You are on slide 1. And you are looking at lesson 9, how forests are managed. Yes, we need to manage forests. Why do we need to manage forests? Well, we need to manage everything that humans come in contact with, um, and not just because humans mess up these areas and these environments, but also because humans do have that intelligence and ability to modify things. And if it's being used to modify it for good reasons, then other species can benefit, and we can benefit as well. All right. So there is something called forest management, and it's a part of the whole agriculture thing that we've been dealing with. We were dealing with food and farming for a while. Now we moved to forests, and we're going to talk about how the forests are managed. Slide 2, as usual, is an agenda. Look at it at your leisure. Slide 3 is the objective, and at the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe what is meant by forest management. And you also should be able to recognize the role played by national forests in land usage. Yeah, so those are the objectives for today. Slide 4. This is forest management in a nutshell. Forest management involves carefully applied harvesting of trees with their replacement in mind, rather than allowing any type of lumbering. All right, you got to understand this a little bit. We need wood, right? Every time we start talking about cutting down trees, that automatically goes to a negative place. It's like, oh my God, we're destroying the planet. What the hell are we doing? Oxygen, carbon dioxide, deforestation, blah, blah. We go down that negative path, and that's not wrong. That is what falls into the realm of this lumbering they talk about on the slide. All right. There are people that irresponsibly cut this stuff down without thinking about it, without seeing what species they're going to displace, without seeing what plant species they're going to disrupt or possibly force into extinction. So, there's wild ways to do things and there's smart and efficient ways to do things. We need wood. We need lumber. Many parts of the world use wood for heating and cooking still. We need the trees, right? But we can do it. And if, the other day my son was doing science and he's talking about renewable and non-renewable resources and all that stuff. And, wood is a renewable resource if we do it right. If you've ever seen the movie The Lorax, it's on Netflix now. The Lorax is a Dr. Seuss movie where this guy comes in and gets greedy and he cuts down all of these trees because he was making a product from them. And he cuts all these trees down and he absolutely destroys the environment and all the animals around it. And he can't make his product anymore. That's the biggest thing, right? Like he's trying to make this product and be rich and be rich and be rich. And he gets greedy. He knocks all the trees down and now he can't make the product anymore. If he would have thought about it, right? If he would have taken care of the trees and the environment, not only would the species would have survived in a better manner, but his business would have survived too, right? So there's a whole thing going on there when you don't care about what you're destroying, coming from greed, right? Anyway, forest management involves carefully applied harvesting of trees. So yes, we need wood, we need lumber, we need heat, we need cooking sources. We need that. So we are going to cut down trees. That's where we get the lumber from. But we can apply the harvesting. We can involve carefully applied harvesting. We can do it efficiently. We can do it smart, and we can do it in a good way where it's not. We're going to get what we need, and we're going to not destroy the environments that these things come from. Right? We're always smart and efficient. Harvesting of trees and forest management always has replacement in mind as well. So we're not just taking them down. We have to let them keep going, and we have to get them growing again. And we have to either seed or we have to give them time to grow. So that's managing a forest, making sure that there's plenty of trees growing for the world, but we're also getting what we need as far as the lumber from it and things like that. Right? That's forest management. When done right, it's very effective. Slide 5. So here, before I start talking about slide 5, there's going to be on the next few slides a bunch of different methods that forests are managed. All right. There may be something popping into your head because nature manages forests itself without our help, right? And it does that in the form of fires. So we know that already, and we've talked about that. So when we start talking about managing forests and things like that, we're going to hold off on the fire talk. Nothing about fire in here except for the first sentence there, but there's nothing about fire, right? We know that humans deliberately set fires, right? We call that a controlled burn, so we can clear out some area of the forest. So we do all that. You guys know that. I've mentioned that, but we're not talking about forests during this slideshow, or fires rather. Fires get their own slideshow. So guess what the next slideshow is in a couple lessons from now? Forest fires. So that one is important, and we're giving that its own attention. So these other management strategies, these are the other ones that don't have to do with burning things down and clearing out areas. All right. So the first method of forest management is called clear cutting. That's exactly what it sounds like. All of these things, just the word tells you what it is. Clear cutting can be used to mimic a natural fire. Okay? All the trees in a small area are removed to create a really big open area. That open area will quickly sprout grasses and food for animals, right? And then there's certain forests, there's certain types of trees like redwood, as it says here in the redwood forests. Redwood grows best in open sunlight. The reason why is because redwood, new trees will sprout from its own stump, from the old stump. So if you cut a redwood tree down, a new tree given enough sunlight will start to grow from that stump. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Now, not all trees, not all forests are that efficient and do that, but redwoods do that. So for a redwood forest, clear cutting might be a decent option. What it is in a nutshell is you clear out a whole area. You say, okay, here's a 2,000 acre forest. We're going to take 100 acres of it, or 200 or 10% of this forest, and we're going to clear cut it. We're going to use all the good wood for lumber, right? And for things that we need it for. And what that's going to do is create a big open space, which is okay, because the redwoods are going to start to grow back in that sunlight. The grasses are going to grow. The animals aren't going to be displaced too much, right? If you live in that exact 10% as an animal, yes, when they clear cut it, you're going to be like, I'm getting the hell out of here, right? And you're going to run away. And you're going to move into the rest of the thousands of acres of forest. And you're going to live there. And eventually animals will re-inhabit this place when there's food and there's shelter. So it's not a bad thing necessarily. It doesn't work everywhere, though. All right, this is just for redwood forests and things of that nature, right? And if you clear cut and you're not responsible about it, then you can have some problems with regrowth. All right, so clear cutting has to be done carefully. You have to survey the area, make sure there's no species or plants that may become extinct that just live in that area. So there's a lot to it. So environmental scientists really come into play with a lot of that. So that's clear cutting. That's the most extreme because you're cutting everything down in an area. Okay. Seed tree harvesting, the next one on slide 5. Seed tree harvesting is like a clear cut, except that you leave a few healthy trees around to naturally reseed the area. So we know trees propagate themselves. They drop their seeds and new trees grow, right? That's the way it works. And most trees act like that. So if you do the seed tree harvesting method, what you do is you clear cut that area. Well, you almost clear cut that area, but you leave a tree here and you leave a mature tree here over there. And then you leave another one over there. You leave these single trees throughout this area. And those single trees will help propagate, will help reseed the area naturally. So more trees will grow. All right. So that's called seed tree. So that's pretty much clear cutting, except you're leaving some single trees sporadically placed all over the place. All right. Slide 6 is called shelter wood harvesting. Shelter wood harvesting is similar to seed tree, right? So think about this. You're cutting everything down and you're leaving a couple trees sporadically placed, right? That's the last one we talked about. That's seed tree. Shelter wood is when you cut a big area down, but you leave clumps of trees. So instead of leaving one tree here and one tree here and one tree here, you're leaving a group of 4 or 5 here. And then you're leaving a group of 4 or 5 here and 4 or 5 over there throughout the whole area. What that does is that provides protection, because when the 4 or 5 trees are growing in an area, it provides protection from its canopy. So it provides protection from direct rains and heavy rains, right? And erosion even. And it also protects the area as far as sun goes, right? We know plants need sun, but too much of it could be a bad thing. So that helps provide shade. That's particularly important for young seedlings, for the seeds that are dropped from these trees. Those seedlings are very, very fragile. They're very susceptible to high heat and too much water and all that stuff. They need to sprout and get a little strong before they can take the natural ebbs and flows of the weather, okay, of the climate. So you have these groups of trees in shelter wood harvesting, and they provide protection to the new seedlings because they grow in clumps and they provide shade and weather protection. All right, so that's shelter wood. So you think about that as shelter, wood that is sheltering the seedlings, right? So these words really give it away if you really think about them. The next one on slide 6 is called group selection. All right, group selection is selective cutting, removing individual trees in a cycle. Large trees are cut, smaller trees are left. When the smaller trees get bigger, then they're cut and there's smaller trees behind it, right? This is sort of like a recycling plan. What I think when I think of this is I think about a Christmas tree farm. If you've ever seen a Christmas tree farm or in person, you will see an area of that Christmas tree farm has really big Christmas trees. And then there's going to be an area of that farm that has Christmas trees that are a little smaller. And there's going to be an area that has baby Christmas trees that are only a foot high. And then there's going to be another area where you see tiny little seedlings or nothing at all. The reason they do that is because every year, if this is a business for them, every year they need to have mature trees to grow down so people buy them, right? So they plant them at all different intervals. And when the mature trees get big enough, boom, they cut it down. And then these trees the next year or the following year get big enough and boom, they cut them down. And there's always smaller trees coming up the pipe, right? Or coming up the pipe. So you know that there's always going to be an availability, right? So that's what group selection is in the forest. That's when you cut down the oldest trees. Now, the older trees are bigger, they're more mature, they make more lumber, all right? So if this can be done, this makes more sense, group selection, because when you clear cut, right? Say you clear cut an entire area. Yes, you're getting all the usable mature wood, but you're cutting down all the saplings, which are baby trees. You're clear cutting everything. You're cutting down small trees, young trees that are not good, that are not really efficient, or you don't get a lot of lumber out of them. So you're almost wasting them in a sense, right? Group selection says, okay, we wait until a tree is this high and this big and this mature, and then we take it down. And there's always medium, small, babies, seedlings. There's always other trees there. That to me seems like the best method. That's if you can do that and get away with that in an area, to me that seems like the best answer, because there's forest, there's always forest, there's always that ecosystem, there's always that niche, there's always shelter for animals and food for animals. You're not clear cutting a whole area, right? But again, you're not going to get as much wood out of it as if you cut down everything. So there's the balance. To me, the group selection seems like the balance. It seems like the smart thing to do, but there must be scenarios where the other ones are probably better ideas. All right. That's slide 6. Slide 7 gives us the last method. The last method is single tree selection. And that's exactly what it sounds like. You strategically remove individual trees of different sizes, so you can help maintain diversity. And you use this technique when you're in protected areas, like a lake protected area or a wildlife habitat protected area. All right. So a single tree selection is now, okay, we're going into a sensitive area here. We're not just going into a part of a forest that we can knock down and it's going to come back. Everything we do in this protected area, it's protected for a reason. It's protected because the environment is very, very fragile. Either the animals there are very fragile, or they need this protection, or the lake or the water, whatever. Something needs protection, and that's why it's been designated a protected area. You can't go in and just cut stuff. That's going to mess up the environment. No matter what you do, it can disrupt it, a very fragile environment, to the point where you ruin it. So single tree selection is when you go in, environmental scientists and all these people, wildlife habitat specialists, they go into a forest and they say, okay, that tree over there, that one can come down. That one is mature enough. That one's not going to disrupt too much. That tree over there, not going to disrupt too much. That tree over there looks like it could fall down, looks like it's getting old. Let's get rid of that one. We need a little more space over there in that habitat, so let's cut down that one. You get the point. They look at each individual tree in the area and they say, okay, this one can come down, this one can come down, this, the cost and benefit of cutting one down. So obviously that's painstaking, and that's usually only done in an area where you really have to be careful, because there's wildlife, where there's water, where there's something that's very fragile. All right. There was me and my son went hiking a couple months ago, and we were walking down a trail and we were looking at the trees. Now, trees have trail markers on them that tell you which way to go, right? But he saw these other markings that were at the bottom of the tree, and it was sort of like an X. I didn't know what it meant. And I was like, I don't know what that is. I thought maybe kids did it. I thought it was vandalism. But then we walked a little further and we saw another one. And I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, that's what it is. Those trees with the little X's at the bottom of them were marked for removal. So someone went in there and someone said, okay, this tree here, could fall down on the trail. And this tree here is getting old. And this tree here can be taken out for more space, for whatever. So they selectively chose the trees for removal for certain reasons, right? So that's what single tree selection is. All right, slide 8. Slide 8. So in 1905, not sure if you need to know the date, I will just check it in your head. In 1905, the Forest Service, which is an agency run by the Department of Agriculture, they come into play, right? So that was discovered. Why do I have a brain fart right now? Founded. It was founded, right? So in 1905, established, like the slide says. It was founded in 1905. It's the Forest Service. It's an agency of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Their job is to manage public lands in national forests and grasslands. So it's not just the forest that we're talking about. It's also the grasslands in the middle of America, in the middle of the United States. All public lands in national forests and grasslands are managed by the Forest Service Agency. All right. First guy to do it, first chief of the Forest Service, was a guy named Gifford Pinchot. He summed up the mission in this wonderful, beautiful quote. And that quote is to provide the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people in the long run. So that's basically the definition of sustainability, right? Sustaining that environment to provide the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people over a very, very long time. So protecting things, doing things smart, doing things the right way will provide will give our environment a long, long, healthy life for generations and generations to come, which is important. All right. Slide 9 is a map. The map that you see on slide 9, you can look at and you can discover on your own. What it shows you is the national forests and the grasslands that are managed by this Forest Management Agency, all right, or the Forest Service Agency. So the Forest Service Agency is responsible for managing 193 million acres of land across the United States. If you put all this stuff together, it's about the size of Texas, which is huge. So it's a huge, massive undertaking to manage all of these public forests and grasslands, right? So the Forest Agency, the Forest Service Agency has a big job, right? These are the people that you see when you go to some places. You see park rangers, forest rangers. They fall under this Forest Service Agency, which falls under the Department of Agriculture, right? So when you see these park rangers in their goofy outfits, walking around and making sure everybody's throwing out their garbage, those are government jobs. They work for the Department of Agriculture. That's kind of cool. If I had to do it all over again, if I grew up in an area that wasn't New Jersey, I'd probably go that route and be like a forest ranger, just hang out and manage the forests. That'd be pretty cool. Anyway, I digress. Slide 10 tells you what you got to do, right? So slide 10, last time when we talked about old growth forests, you had to watch 16 minutes of a video and then answer some questions of it, right? It was called Survivors of the Firestorm. You're continuing viewing that. So in the speaker notes here, I've linked you to the YouTube video again, Survivors of the Firestorm. You are watching minute 16 to minute 36. So we're taking this in 3 parts. The old growth forest, you watch 0 to 16 minutes. For this one, forest management, you're watching 16 minute to 36 minutes. And then when we talk about forest fires, you're going to watch 36 minutes till the end. All right. So you are going to click on that link. You are going to watch that video from minute 16 to minute 36, and you're going to flip over to slide 11. And slide 11 shows you on the right the 5 methods that we just went through for managing a forest, right? And then you are going to answer this question for the 2 types of trees mentioned in this slide. You are going to answer which forest management strategy, the things on the right, which forest management strategy most mimics the natural regeneration for the trees shown in the video segment, and why. All right, so you're going to see when you watch that video that number 1 there, eucalyptus trees, they're going to start discussing eucalyptus trees. You're going to learn how eucalyptus trees regenerate and all that stuff. And then you're going to pick which management strategy most closely mimics the regeneration of eucalyptus trees. And you're going to explain why you picked that method. And then you're going to get to a segment that talks about mountain ash trees. You're going to watch that segment and you're going to see how they naturally regenerate. And you're going to pick a management strategy from that list on the right. And you're going to, which closely mimics the mountain ash trees. And you're going to tell me why you chose that one. So very, very easy, right? It's a 1 question with a why, and you're doing it for both of those trees. You can answer it right in the speaker notes. That's all you got going on today. Answering 1 question, watching a video clip, all right? So not too difficult. Like I said, slides with a little something to do at the end. And then next time you come on, there's going to be an Edpuzzle. That Edpuzzle is going to be a video with questions, and you're going to be graded on that. So make sure you're keeping up with all that stuff. I decided not to go live every time. I'm going live to go through the slides because I know it's helpful to some people, I've been told. But when I do the Edpuzzles, I'm just going to post them. That doesn't mean anything, right? I'm live now, and there's not going to be too many people watching. They all watch later on anyway. So when I go live, I'm required to go live, and that's why I do it. But to me in my head, I'm just recording a video, and you guys are watching it at your leisure, and that's cool. But if you do have to pop on and ask me a question live, that's why I do this, right? So when I do the ed puzzles, I'm just going to post them. But I am here. I am alert. I am on my computer all day. I'm getting back to everybody that emails me, within a half hour or an hour if I have another meeting or another class at that time when you email me. There could have been someone that emailed me at the beginning of this, so they're waiting for a reply, right? So there is some delay just because of that whole thing. But I'm getting back to everybody within the day, before the end of the day. And I'm here all the time. If you have any questions, just private message me, and don't worry about anything, because if you're doing stuff a little late because you have a million things going on, I'm cool with that. But it does have to get done, right? I do know that there are plenty of the administrators are doing a wonderful job, and they're just as busy as me and just as busy as you. And one of the things they're doing to ensure that everybody is okay and no one has any problems, they're really, really going through everything with a fine-tooth comb, right? They're looking at all the grades on a daily basis. They're looking at student work from your classroom on a daily basis, the ed puzzles. They're looking at me and what I'm doing. They're popping into videos. They're doing a lot, right? And it sounds crazy, but they're doing it to ensure that we are doing the right thing and that you guys are doing the right thing. So nobody at the end of the year could tell us anything about, oh, well, this isn't, you didn't do any work. And no, right? That's why we're doing this. That's why we're completing it. That's why we're filling out the attendance every single day, right? So I just want to tell you that if you're not doing things, if you're not getting to some of these things before I grade them or shortly after, uh, it's going to get caught. You're going to get put on a list, and you're going to get a call from an administrator, and because they don't like seeing those zeros, and they're doing it for you. They're doing it for your protection, so they're going to make sure that they do that. Okay. And that's just a heads up. That's just a friendly warning, because I want everybody to get it done. And it's not too hard, right? I mean, you're sitting around in your jammies. You could easily get some of this stuff, right? If you're having any issues, any difficulties, there's any extenuating circumstances, we totally respect and support that. Just send me a private message. Let me know what's up. All right. I'm out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. You got a half hour to keep doing some of this work. Watch that video, 15 minutes, answer that question. Boom, you're out. I will talk to you guys next week, where you'll see an ed puzzle and then more slides, and then probably a quiz towards the end of the week. See ya.